What we have here is an 80s model of Richard Johnson's Kamado, Model K5. And like many of Richard's tiled Kamados, it is losing its tiles and has been for a long time. I moved it to Wyoming in 2001, and the extreme temperatures and the winds really accelerated that problem. Eventually I'm going to take all those tiles off. But that's not why I'm doing this recording. Today I want to talk about airflow control. Now Richard uses a screw top, which is very nice for rain, but when you start to use it, it's very sloppy. And when you get it down into low and slow, it's just really not very good at regulating. So in my research, looking for a new vent cap, I discovered this little unit over here, which is the TipTopTemp. It's a thermostatically controlled damper, originally designed for Weber kettles, although many people have been adapting them to Kamado Joes and other forms of ceramic cookers. So I thought I'd see what I could do with this. Now the problem being, this is a small diameter, probably around 5 inches, and this thing is big. It's 7.5 inches. So I decided to see what I could do. Now a few people have been using plate hangers, like this little unit here. And I did buy one, and what I thought I would do is to drill a hole on either side, put in an eyelet, and attach the hangers there. And while I think that's a valid way of doing things, I decided to go for something a little simpler, which is to pull the cap off, drill a few holes, and use some self-tapping sheet metal screws. Now the reason I use the self-tappers is because of this end here, which will dig out the sand and the grit from the drilling. Now after I drill, I will be blowing it out with air, but there will be stuff picked up along the ways. Now these are 1 3/4 inch, 1 5/8. I measured it to see what I would need, and we'll get on to the drilling. Now before I went out and bought those screws, I did drill a test hole to see how easy this stuff was to drill, and it wasn't bad at all. It's coming out real nicely. It cleans out. So what I'm going to do is drill these, and then I'm going to drill 2 holes through the TipTop Pro. And if you do this, make sure you use a piece of wood to block in behind so that you don't buckle the metal. Anyway, so I'm going to do that. So I found that a 1/8 inch drill bit was perfect for accommodating this number 8 screw. And what I'm doing is being very gentle on it, taking it in a ways, taking it out. I've already done this one, just to clear the dust out so you don't have any extra abrasives in there. And if you want to be really thorough, you put a little canned air in there. Sorry about the terrible video. Anyway, I'm going to match this up and drill the tip top, and once I get that, I'll score and mark the other hole. Okay, as you can see, I've drilled this and fit that for the first hole, and what I did was go 180 degrees around here, drilled this hole, and now I'm going to tap into the ceramic over on this side to lock it down. Okay, I've got both holes drilled now and tapped through, and you'll notice it's not on center, and there's a reason for that. It's because if you look down here, this hole is not centered in the chimney, so I had to fudge it a little bit. Now before you put this thing on, can't do this, so I need 3 hands, I suggest you pull the red gasket down over the edge, over the lip of the tip-top unit, so that when you put it down here, it snugs up against the Kamado itself. And if I find that that isn't sufficient, I'll get some gasket material and cut a ring and put that underneath. Okay, it's officially installed. Now one thing that's not noted in the video is that after putting the screws through there, I put a couple of wraps of plumber's tape on there just to make it go smooth into that ceramic material, and it seemed to make the threads go much nicer. Next step is to fire this thing up and see how it regulates. So here's some tiny lump charcoal being fired up by my heat gun. I don't really want to waste the big stuff on this test, so I've opened the regulator and I'm waiting for the temperature to come up, and I will adjust this regulator as needed to keep it open until I start getting close to the temperature I want. I'm shooting for 235, which seems to be my sweet spot for smoking on this unit. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, well, I've brought the Kamado up to temperature and dialed the tip top down a ways, and it's holding here at 236.5. We're up to 237. That's right about where I like to have this cooker. That way if it drops, I'm only going down to 225, and if it goes up 10 degrees, I'm still at 245, which is still acceptable for most things. Now, the tip-top people recommend that you close the bottom vent and get all your air from the top. While that may work on a Kamado Joe, most people I've read finding they need a little bit of air. The top of this has quite a chimney to it, so I don't think it would be very good at drawing air. I have had to give this thing a little crack down here, not much. And that's the next thing I'd like to replace, is some type of finer tuned air supply control. But for right now, holding at 237. I'm going to set the timer for 30 minutes and come back and see how it's doing. Alright, well, it's been an hour actually. I got caught up in another project. And here we are sitting at 234.5, 235. It's going back and forth, which is exactly where I want to be. Now I can actually see that the damper has closed down a fair amount on its own. So I'm going to mark that number, which looks like 2 1/8 or 2 1/4. And oh boy, I can't be happier. So I think I'll just let this thing go, and maybe I'll find a piece of meat to go throw on there. Anyway, if you've got a Kamado Joe, Primo, even one of those Acorn grills by Char Grill, the metal version of the Kamado, this thing is the ticket as far as I'm concerned. Did a lot of research, read a lot of forums before I got into it, and I don't think I could have picked anything better. Alright, enjoy.